Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Well, the internet thinks that the Brian Walshe case is really easy, and in a lot of ways, it is. Today, we saw the most damning Google searches that I have ever seen, all on Brian Walsh's computer in a household that had no other adult who even could have written these. And make no mistake, they are horrific, they are shocking. And the jury is just going to be overwhelmed by the number of them and how specific they are. But legally speaking, there is a big gaping hole in the prosecution case. And I'm going to show you how it's playing out at the trial right now. So tonight, you're going to hear these very jarring Google searches. I can't emphasize enough that they don't get any worse. You would think that this alone would be enough, but we are also going to look at the other side, at what Brian Walsh's team is arguing. And we're going to be asking ourselves, does the defense have a point on some of these claims? Can the Commonwealth plug this hole during the course of this trial? So let's get started. Remember, all week here on the channel is Mods Week. We are honoring and thanking our mods, Marlon and Mama Pinks, and all super chats this week will go to Marlon and to Mama Pink. So thank you, everybody. I see we already have a ton of people jumping in with super chats. Thank you so much, and I will get to those in just a minute. So the testimony today about the searches was really long and ponderous. It was really pretty dull. The main content, which was unbelievably not dull, really not dull, kind of got hidden in a bunch of lawyer fluff. Well, all this, will you go to this page and that page, and what do you see, and read this, and now tell me what date. It just took a while. So what I've done for the purposes of this video is I stripped all of that out, and I've condensed what took, I think, several hours at trial down to 5 minutes. So I have edited everything out except you're going to hear only the Google and Yahoo searches that police actually found. And you'll just hear those. It is utterly shocking. And I think particularly when you hear them kind of all at once like that, you're really going to get a sense of what it is that the prosecution has, which will make it even more interesting when you realize also what the prosecution needs to prove in the course of this case. So you are about to see Trooper Guarino of the Massachusetts State Police, and many of you will recognize him. He was a central character also, or made an appearance anyway, in the Karen Reed case. So a lot of you have seen him before and you know about him. So quickly and in a nutshell, Ana and Brian Walshe have been married roughly 10 years, and they had a New Year's Eve dinner, 2022, moving into 2023, with a friend. Friend leaves after midnight, and the two of them, according to Brian, are in bed by 1:30. Now, that is when the friend was there the last time that Ana Walshe was seen. Brian has now pled guilty to disinterment of her body, disposing of it, and other horrible things that you are going to be led to think about as you hear these Google searches. And also, he has pled guilty to lying to police. He told the police repeatedly for the period of time after she was gone that she was missing. He let them believe she was missing. And then they found these internet searches, the ones you are about to hear, that were on his computer there at the home. And at that point, the police no longer believed that she was missing. You're going to hear why and how they believe he murdered her. You are going to hear a lot about that over the course of these searches. So we learned yesterday in Brian Walsh's opening statement, his brand new theory, brand new to us, we didn't know what it was, that he is now going to say that he found Ana Walshe in bed. It was a sudden death with no warning. He went down, he was cleaning up the kitchen, he came back to bed, and there she was, dead. Had no clue, no warning. It just suddenly happened. And the attorney giving the opening statement for him said, yeah, that happens. You're going to hear expert witnesses say, yeah, that happens. So I'm going to let these play with not too much interruption, because I think that's kind of the whole point. I want you to hear them in their scope. I will break in a few times to talk a little bit about what we're going to have. The first of these began at 4:52 a.m., just hours into New Year's Day. This is just hours after the friend left. And it starts out shocking and it just absolutely keeps going. So that's what you're about to hear. Let me go ahead and get us started.
10 ways to dispose of a dead body. How long before a body starts to smell? Google search. How long for someone to be missing to inheritance? Article 10 ways to dispose of a dead body. The user physically went 11 pages deep into this article. How long for someone to be missing to be dead? Lowe's. How long does DNA last?
And
Lowe's was a place where he was seen shopping. So that's the reason for that particular part.
there is a line, redirect.
Slate.news, it's an article, but it says, is it possible to clean DNA off a knife? Is it possible to clean DNA off a knife? Question mark. Can identification be made on partial human remains? How to dispose of a cell phone? How to dispose of a computer? I am a user on my wife's credit card. She is missing. Can I still use the card? My wife is missing. What should I do? Your spouse is missing and you want a divorce / hello divorce. 6 ways to dispose of body parts after murder. 6 ways to dispose of a body - murder.
And what is the URL?
www.murdermurdermurder.com/blog. Patrick Kearney.
Who is Patrick Kearney?
He was named the trash bag killer. He would murder victims and throw their corpses away into trash bags.
So the reason that this is so sensational, the one you just heard, of course, is because that's what the prosecution believes happened in this case with Ana Walshe. And they've insinuated that lots of different ways. We're going to be hearing more about that over time. So I'm not even through. I'm not even through with day one of January 1. But have you ever heard searches like this before? I mean, it is unbelievable. Also, I would just like to say, who has a blog called murder.com? Like, what? Anyway, so this is, as you can see, these are really alarming. The Patrick Kearney reference threw an objection, and the judge pulled everybody up and had a conference with them and had a sidebar, in other words, with just the attorneys outside the presence of the jury. And she struck that last sentence, but they came back and dealt with that more later in the afternoon. So the jury has heard that. The jury heard that that's who it is, that it was a trash bag killer, and that Brian Walshe was searching for that. So they are hearing all of this. We're going to keep going. Can I ask you, would you please hit the like button? That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you are not subscribed, we would love to have you specifically subscribed and coming back for more videos. Let's keep going.
Cleaning up a dead body / Wired, YouTube. So it's a YouTube video.
What is YouTube?
YouTube is a video website where companies can upload whatever videos they want. How to clean.
Okay, I just had to leave that in because really? What is YouTube? Somebody made a hilarious comment because she asked very basic questions, rightly so, because you don't know what the people on the jury know or don't know. That's why it's like, what are all of these people on the jury, like 90? Like, how do they not know this? Like, what is a URL? What is an email? What is YouTube? So anyway, I know for a fact all of you know what YouTube is.
Blood from a wood floor. Can I use bleach to clean my wood floors from blood stains? What does bleach do to dead bodies? Want to get away with murder? Question mark. Use special detergent / Discover magazine. Is it better to throw away crime scene clothes or wash them? How to use hydrogen peroxide on bloodstains. How to clean bloodstains with hydrogen peroxide - YouTube. It's a video of those search terms. Should I use hydrogen peroxide 8 on bloodstains in concrete? Can the FBI tell when you accessed your phone? Does the dishwasher clean blood? Is it possible that a knife which had blood on it remains contaminated with HIV after it has been washed with hot water and dishwasher soap - Quora?
Okay, we're going to stop there. That's January 1. That's just January 1. And there are more. There are more to come. And it gets, if anything, darker, much darker even than what you've heard. But I want to take a minute to say thank you to all the people who are giving to our mods appreciation week here on the channel. So all super chats are going to the mods this week, from Jinda Bomb, who also gave last night. Thank you, much appreciated. And from Bama Queen, thank you, and specifically thanking Marlon and Mama Pinks, much appreciated. You keep chat pleasant for everyone. This is the best channel. Thank you, Bama Queen. Nice comments. Beth also gave last night, Beth Geib. I don't know if I pronounced Beth's last name right, but we are appreciative. And Jinda Bomb, pointing out to everybody, it is Mod Week and donations go to the mods. We are very appreciative of them here on the channel. So Chico Karen also coming in with a thank you to Marlon and Mama Pinks. And thanking them for being such great mods. We'll keep going with these. I wanted to do a few of those, but we'll keep going with those in just a minute. Okay, so we are now switched over to January 2nd. You can see from those searches why the prosecution believes that Ana Walshe was dead early in the morning on January 1st, because those searches started so early. Now we're going to be moving to January 2nd. And they take a darker turn, and you can see kind of, instead of just clean up, you can kind of see where things are headed.
How to remove a SIM card from an iPhone. Remove or switch the SIM card in your iPhone - Apple support. How to remove a hard drive from an Apple laptop. TJ Maxx near me, Norwell. How long do stores keep security footage? How to saw a body. How to dismember a body. Hacksaw, the best tool for dismembering a body. Details of dismemberment discussed in murder trial. /Wayne 15. Can you be charged with murder without a body? Murder conviction without a body - Wikipedia. No corpse?
Okay, I'm going to stop it there and talk for just a minute about what you can just clearly hear here is the prosecution's contention that there was not just an attack, there was not just something that happened, but there was disposal. And in fact, Brian has acknowledged that he disposed of the body. He has pled guilty to that. Now, the jury has not yet heard that he pled guilty to it, but they have heard his attorney acknowledge that he did those things, that he actually did that. So the jury is hearing some of the most horrific searches that I've ever heard. I mean, just truly shocking stuff. And it doesn't get any better. It only gets darker and darker as the searches proceed. And so one of the concerns, obviously, for the prosecution is they're laying this out in front of the jury. Is it going to convince the jury? And the fact that there are so many of these, that it happens so intently, search after search after search, I think is going to be really important for persuading the jury about intent. But that's where we're going to be going with our big questions. So I wanted to do all of these, but I am highly concerned about that. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure we stay compliant with not overusing words here on the tube. I'm trying to make sure that we're doing it all properly. All right, so let's go ahead and hear a little bit more.
No problem. Notable murder convictions without a body - A&E True Crime. Can you identify a body with broken teeth? Disposing of a body in the trash. Chatham West Apartments Rentals - Brockton MA Zillow. The Claremont Apartments Rentals, Abington, Mass Zillow. What powder mass smells the best? Can I mix white vinegar to stop smells? Can baking soda?
Okay, and we're about to switch to January 3rd. And honestly, it's just unbelievable. I'm thinking I may even, I guess we're already in for a penny, in for a pound. So we'll go ahead and keep going and see what we can do. But I really want you to be able to hear. I mean, this is evidence, right? This is exactly what was presented in court. This is what the jury is hearing. This is what the jury will be deciding based on, and what they should be deciding based on, because of the fact that this is the actual searches done in the case. It's evidence. It's what they have to consider.
A dead body smell good - cleaning up blood without leaving a trace - 5 tips, aftermath services. Are footprints easy to wash away? How long for a dismembered body to decompose? Body found at trash station. Can a body decompose in a plastic bag? Can police get your search history without without your computer? Does a cell phone track your historical location? Chase credit card login, Google search.
Can you tell me the title being looked at?
Yeah. It says cheating wife seduces another man to impregnate her. Best divorce strategies for men.
We're going to go ahead and stop there. So, because for one thing, we've switched. January 4th had a does a cell phone track your historical location was the one search. January 7th was the Chase credit card login. I personally didn't see that as being necessarily all that big a deal. But then they moved to this cheating wife issue. They talked about this being a film that 7 minutes of it was watched. But honestly, I mean, I listened to it once. I went back and listened to it again. I understand the words cheating wife were of importance to them because, in fact, apparently Ana Walshe was having an affair. Brian Walshe says he had no idea. He didn't know about it, that she did this, but he didn't know. He didn't find out until he was actually arrested and charged in this case after it was revealed to him. Then he found out about it, but not beforehand. So in this particular case, I didn't really see where that came across all that strongly. But here's what I would like to know. You have heard the array of searches that the jury heard today. I want to know your opinion. Can anyone recover after these searches? I would really like your comments in the chat, or if you're watching back on the video, in the comments, let me know what you think. It covers, starts on the 1st and moves all the way through the 7th with the most recent search that the Chase credit card login. So that's a period of time. They only got information from the 25th of December through the 8th of January. And that's something you are going to hear unbelievably good cross about from the defense. It was excellent. It went right to the issue that is important here. So, but when you see these searches kind of laid out, it paints a picture of a very disturbing event that happened and the aftermath of the event as well, all of that. So it's absolutely no wonder in my mind that he pled guilty to that issue about disinterment of the body. With these searches, I don't think he had any choice. There was no possibility he was ever going to win on that issue. And frankly, these are more extensive than we knew. They are breathtaking in their scope and not in a good way at all. And then on top of that, we just saw yesterday, along with the jury, the interviews of him saying, oh, I haven't seen her, and suggesting that his wife was just fine when she left. He has no idea where she could be. And you put that together with the searches that he had to have been doing at the same time, and that he's now more or less acknowledging that he did. And you put that together, and the picture for the jury is very damning. It's someone who's lying and covering up. Sometimes as an attorney, you have to recognize that there are certain points that you can't win, but you are about to see a very talented lawyer take advantage of that, but it's still not going to be even, I don't know. Will it be is really the question. Will it be close enough, because he is going straight for the legal problem that the Commonwealth has. So we're going to get into that. There are a couple more searches that I want you to hear about, because I think these are the ones that the prosecution believes go to the motive that he had. Let's listen to these.
Best state to divorce for a man. 5 best and 5 worst states to get divorced in the U.S. Washington, D.C. divorce laws, websites regarding divorce advice, mistakes in divorce, using verbal abuse, don't split up like this, the 10 stupidest mistakes men make facing divorce. It's all divorce related. Replay poker.
Okay, so the last one, I didn't understand. It was replay poker. I don't know. What did that have to do with anything? I was unclear on that. But the searches about divorce, the prosecution is suggesting that those gave Brian Walshe a motive, that maybe Ana Walshe was going to leave him. She hadn't told anybody else that. Apparently, there are no friends who are going to come in and say she was about to file. One is going to say she seemed much more down when she had lunch with her a couple of days beforehand. But this is not something where we're going to hear anybody come in and say she was filing, she had filed, she had an attorney. Apparently, we're not going to hear that. But these were searches Brian Walshe did on December 27th. Now, his story around why he did that was he had this art fraud case hanging over his head, and that the reason he needed to do these searches was because of the fact that he was concerned that whatever happened in the art fraud case wouldn't end up bankrupting his family. He wanted to be able to split off. Ana could keep the money, use it for her, use it for the kids. If he had to go to jail, it wouldn't harm her. So that's the story that the defense has told us in the opening statements. So the replay poker, I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. I don't know what that had to do with it. Maybe that he had gambling losses. I haven't heard any argument from the prosecution about that, but maybe they'll come up with that. So you hear these searches, it's absolutely no wonder that the internet is thinking this case is super simple, but it is not. And I want to show you why using a little bit of the cross that was done by Brian Walshe's attorney. Now, it's clear that Brian Walshe is guilty. How do we know? Because he's acknowledged that he's guilty. He has admitted his guilt on 2 of the counts, but not on murder. He is arguing he is not guilty of murder. And that's what the prosecution has to prove if he's to be convicted of murder, including that he thought about it in advance, that there was intent behind what he did. And that is exactly where the prosecution has a weak spot, and the defense goes straight into that.
You would agree, wouldn't you, that your review of the MacBook data that you extracted, that all of these dark search queries that you were asked specifically on direct examination, that they all look only after 4:52 a.m. on January 1st, 2023?
That I was able to see, yes.
When you say able to see, what do you mean?
Well, I didn't have anything going back prior to the 25th, so I only have what was limited via the search warrant, but everything was from the 1st to about, I believe, the 4th.
Right, but we've already been through this, so
Yeah.
let me ask you again. If you wanted to see if there was a searches conducted on this MacBook where someone is trying to figure out how to dispose of a body before January 1st of 2023, and you thought that was important to your investigation, once again, you could have gone back and applied for a warrant to see if there were, right?
Well, I'd have to show probable cause for the warrant to show why I would need to go back further than the 25th that I've already written for.
So you had no probable cause then to go back to the court and say, I have reason to believe that someone might have been trying to learn how to dispose of a body prior to January 1st of 2023 at 4:52 in the morning.
Objection.
Overruled.
That's
In fact, in all of your
What he said was, that's correct. I think I edited that out by mistake. So what he's saying here is the defense attorney, and at this point I was like, stop, because it was so clear. It was so good. I didn't think he needed to go past this. But what he's saying is that there are no searches that suggest any kind of intent, anything to do with the death of Ana Walshe that predate January 1. All of those searches come after what the prosecution believes was the time that Ana Walshe was killed. Up until then, the only searches they had related to divorce. None of them had to do with anything darker, anything more sinister than that. And so that is an excellent point. And if they had wanted more, they could have gone back further. They could have asked the judge to expand the search warrant, which they had only requested December 25 through January 8, which is why they limited their search to that. But they never went back and said, we really need to prove intent. We need to go back another 5 months. They didn't do that. They simply limited it to that and relied on the searches that came afterwards. But can what came afterwards prove intent? Now, the prosecution will argue this shows a state of mind. This is consciousness of guilt, and that and some of the searches too have suggestions, I think, that would fit in there. For example, the knife suggestion, but nothing in the searches came before what happened to Ana Walshe. And that is a strength of the defense case, and because that's really all they got, right? They've got to go straight to the heart of that. They've admitted everything else, and they are going for, you can't prove intent. Maybe he'll have a chance at parole somewhere way far in the distant future. That's what they're hoping for. But he kept going with his questioning, and he got some more points. Here's what he got.
Examination of the data that you did look at, the data that you chose to limit to 12/25 to January 8th. You saw nothing in the data dating back to 12/25 that indicated any searches that were relevant to how to dispose of a body.
That's correct.
You saw no searches about anything about DNA or anything of the sort.
That's correct.
You saw no searches about how to get rid of blood.
Yes.
You saw no searches about how to use hydrogen peroxide to clean up.
Yes.
Yes, meaning you didn't see.
Yes, that's correct. It might have been.
So all of this, I think, is really significant. Just speaking personally, I find his defense about this, sudden death, I don't find that very persuasive. Honestly, we'll have to listen to all the evidence that they present, but it's so convenient. It could be used by anyone. It is the perfect defense if the body isn't present. But as of yet, it is true. The defense has a point. We aren't seeing much yet about intent in advance. And that's one of the things the prosecution is going to have to persuade the jury about. So right now, there is just not a lot of evidence that he thought about this, planned this, even briefly. So what you heard right there, that statement by the defense counsel is Brian Walshe's last hope. And it's what makes this case so incredibly fascinating, to see this one hole and ask, what will the jury do with that? Will they look at these searches and just leap right over that hole? Say, are you kidding? Look at the scope of these searches. Of course he's going to jail. Or will they say, wow, these all happened after January 1. What's your proof from beforehand? We don't know which. Obviously, we're going to continue to watch this. Now, this is heavy stuff, right? So there were a couple of lighter moments today at the trial, and I wanted to play those. The Commonwealth attorney was asking some questions of Trooper Garino, and he started gesturing with his hands, the trooper did. And here's what she told him. I thought it was funny.
Far older version of Celebrate that I used. This is just a newer version, so it might have some columns extra that the older version didn't have.
So you're pointing. And if
I'm
you
sorry,
could just
yes.
if you could just use your words.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty hilarious. But the problem, of course, is a court reporter can't get, patted on the right paper, patted on the left paper. The court reporter can't do that. So the court report, all of that gets missed in the transcript. So she was trying to tell him, use words so that the court reporter can take it down and get an accurate picture of what you were saying. So we also had two really critical stipulations that happened today. One of them related to a piece of evidence so bizarre. I had really been wondering, what on earth was this all about? It was an email to police from someone named Richard Walker that suggests Ana had been kidnapped. And I had thought the Commonwealth was going to say that Brian Walshe had sent this email. Apparently it was actually two emails, but that is not the case because the judge read the stipulation. Now, a stipulation is where both sides agree to something and they agreed on it, and she read out loud the words they agreed together would be said.
At 5:18 a.m. on Saturday, January 7th, 2023, Cohasset Police Detective Harrison Schmidt received an email from Richard Walker 9984 at gmail.com, which stated, "We have the so-named Ana Walshe with us here. We had a deal worth $127,000. She messed up. We have her here with us, and if she doesn't pay the money, then she'll never be back. And we know that the police and the FBI are involved. Good luck finding us. Detective Schmidt received a second email from Richard Walker 9984 at gmail.com, which stated, "Here is Ana Walshe. Unless she pay the money we deal, she isn't coming back. Thanks and good luck." The second email had an image of a woman who was not Ana Walshe, and using an image search, police found the image on iStockPhoto.com under, quote, "kidnapped stock photos." And on January 7th, 2023, police obtained a search warrant for data associated with the account Richard Walker 9984 at gmail.com. The search warrant was sent to Google, and investigators learned that the Internet Protocol address, the IP address, with the Richard Walker 9984 email account geolocated to Nigeria, and no IP addresses located in the United States were associated with the account that sent the Richard Walker 9984 at gmail.com email. The Commonwealth is not alleging that Brian Walshe sent the Richard Walker 9984 at gmail.com email.
It's a big.
So that is absolutely it's both good and bad to know. It's good to know because Brian Walshe is not accused of that. That would have been really bizarre. It frankly didn't fit with all the other things that he was doing. I mean, as far as telling the police, no, she doesn't have any enemies. I don't really know what happened. She seems to have just vanished. And versus she's been kidnapped as being held somewhere. Obviously, two really different stories. But it's also so deeply disturbing that there are people out there who would do this. I guess an extreme version of what's come to be called that Nigerian prince scam. And that it's a scam in which I guess they're suggesting that someone looks up, finds that someone is missing, finds an article about it somewhere, and then sends an email to the police who are investigating that and the email says, "I have this person and they're being captured, they're being held and wants money." The odd thing is they don't ever really seem to request money. So this is just bizarre and very, very disturbing that this happened. But, it's not an allegation that is against Brian Walshe. And it's probably best that they had that included because you never know if some of the jurors might be reminded of that, even though they thought they didn't know about the case or might have heard about that. So for any of those reasons, I think it's best that the jury was told about that. There was also a really big moment today that I wanted to play for you. The reason why this was a big moment was our first introduction of physical evidence, hard, specific physical evidence that says Ana Walshe was probably murdered and that can be tied to the searches that Brian Walshe was doing. The police found trash bags in a dumpster in Peabody and opened them up and found very damning things inside. Let's watch that moment.
Big warehouse with trash lining on the walls. We had dumped the contents of the dumpsters in the warehouse, and we began searching the bags, bag by bag. The contents of the bags were opened. It was spread out on the ground. So this is right when one of the bags was opened for examination. The contents was dumped out so we could look at it. Those are the contents moved to like tarp and plastic and paper sheeting so they could be further examined.
And the boots, do you know what brand those are?
Hunter boots.
And Ms. Gilman, is it possible to zoom in on the white piece of paper underneath the purse? Sergeant, did you see that white piece of paper that night?
I did.
What was that?
That's a COVID-19 vaccination card with the name Ana Walshe on it.
Right.
So to me, that moment was really powerful when for the first time you see physical evidence thrown out in a trash bag, tying together a bunch of those searches we heard and the COVID-19 card of Ana Walshe directly tied to her and very similar to what we heard in terms of the searches. So there was one other stipulation today. we've been talking here on the channel about the art fraud plea. I may do a whole video on what that was about. The judge read a stipulation that was agreed on about the art fraud plea. I really thought this was well done because it was carefully restricted to just what the jury needed to know for purposes of the case and what they were permitted to know, as opposed to some other cases where I think sometimes the judges let too much in. But I thought this was well done. So here it is, the stipulation read by the judge.
Brian Walshe was arraigned in United States District Court in Boston, Massachusetts on May 11, 2018. On April 1st, 2021, Brian Walshe pled guilty to indictments for wire fraud, interstate transportation for a scheme to defraud, and conducting an unlawful monetary transaction. On October 6, 2021, an initial sentencing hearing took place in the United States District Court. Brian Walshe was seeking a sentence of probation and restitution, while the government, through the United States Attorney's Office, was seeking a sentence which included incarceration of 30 to 37 months and restitution of approximately $475,000. In January 2023, Brian Walshe had not been sentenced on the federal charges. Brian Walshe was represented by a lawyer at all stages of the federal case.
So that is all the jury is going to know about. It was fraud, which is important for them because that's an indicator that he lies, and a different court found that to be the case. It could have meant jail, and could have meant jail even during the period when Ana Walshe disappeared and is now presumed dead. He's acknowledged he disinterred the body. That's what he pled guilty to. So that could fit the defense theory or the prosecution theory. So on the one hand, it helps the Commonwealth because it is an acknowledgement that there is fraud that he committed in the past. It's an acknowledgement that he could be going to jail. He has a lot of pressure on him that would cause him, for example, to want to hide something that he had done. But at the same time, it could fit the defense theory in this sense that Brian Walshe was being, not only was represented in the art fraud case, and that was moving forward. He had asked for a lesser sentence. He had asked for no restitution, but it also fits with the allegations he was talking about, where the reason they wanted a divorce was to separate the finances so that if the U.S. won, if he ended up going to prison, if he ended up actually having to pay restitution, it wouldn't affect the family. So it could kind of go either way, but it is obviously going to be a critical part. If you are interested, I'm really considering doing an extra video on the art fraud case, which is absolutely fascinating. I'm only a little bit into the research on it, but if that interests you, please put that in the chat or in the comments so I'll know that that's something that you would like to know more about. So now I want to play because this was a heavy day. Am I right? It was very heavy. This stuff is so dark, but there was another funny moment from the trial that I wanted to play. We'll kind of lighten up the mood a little bit. And this, again, was Trooper Guarino, who was being asked about that video that rhymes with corn movie that was found on a device in the Walshe home. And I thought his reaction to these two questions was really pretty funny. So this is the defense asking him questions about what investigation he did once he discovered that this movie had been accessed by the whatever device it was in the Walshe home.
Look at this. Part of your investigation, did you ever go and view some of that movie?
No, I did not.
Okay. But with regards to this movie, you have no idea what this movie is about, correct?
That's correct.
I love the way he looks at the jury. That's correct. I do not know this. I do not know this movie. Do not blame me for this movie. I'm not the one watching the movie, and don't tell my wife I was. You can just kind of see that in his expression, which I thought was pretty funny. I I want to give a shout out as we move into Q&A and talk a little bit more to our first 5 in the chat. Dial M for Mildred, Bonbon RPH, Melissa, Betsy Sue, and Desert Rose. Special shout out to all of you. And let's go back. We've got a ton of super chats for our mods. I'm so appreciative of that. I think we stopped with Genda Bomb's second. Thank you very much. And Chico Karen is sending a shout out to Marlon and to Mama Pinks. Much appreciated, Chico Karen. As is Dial M for Mildred. We're very appreciative. Thank you for participating in Mods Week here on the channel. Much appreciated. Lisa is thanking the mods. Also appreciated. Chico Karen is just thanking the channel. I'm so glad you've been a member for 21 months. Thank you. Genda Bomb, again, coming in. Genda is a regular here, and we are very appreciative of her. And I would like to say, too, congratulations, Chula, for getting into law school. That is awesome. That is so exciting. So we will look forward to following your journey as you go on to law school. So congratulations. Jersey Jen sending out thanks to Mama Pinks and Marlon. Very appreciative of them as well. So is Lyndon. And oh, by the way, as you're writing your questions, I forgot to say this. Please put your question marks at the beginning of the question. It makes it a lot easier for me to spot in the chat. So sorry, I didn't say that earlier. Maybe if you would repost if you have it. All right, so that was Lyndon and Susan L. Prince. Yes, thank you, mods. They are an integral part. I'm very appreciative to them. Scooter 58 loves the mods, as do we all here on the channel. Much appreciated. And I will stop one down. Long Island Hillbilly said the searches that reference murder are going to do them in. Kudos to the mods. And there's no question. These are the most extensive, most damning searches I think I've ever seen in a case anywhere. They're so specific in terms of the time, in terms of what happened, in terms of what was going to be done, and even match with the physical evidence that was at last found in that dumpster in Peabody. All of that matches. Absolutely perfect dovetail. And I think it's going to be very serious. There is that gaping hole. Will the prosecution be able to plug it, or will the jury reach across that and say, yeah, we got plenty here? That's what we will wait to find out. Kay Oakley, thank you for your super sticker, and very much appreciated. And Janet has been a member for 21 months. That's often awesome. And she wants to hear about the art fraud case. Okay, so that's good to know. So let's go back and do a few questions. I'll see if I can find where they put in that Mama Pinks put in that there would be. She usually puts in, go ahead and put your questions. I'm going to start here. I don't know if I went far enough back, but hopefully I did. And I'm going to be looking for question marks at the beginning. Let's see, as I find my art fraud. Yes, says Gender Bomb. Yeah, I find it really interesting. It's a very interesting case, but I haven't fully researched it yet. So but I appreciate y'all letting me know that you're interested. I see Megan interested in that as well. That's good to know. Thank you for telling me that. Okay, here's my first one with question marks at the beginning. Chris, how can these sites exist yet our comments are policed? Right? Right? Not just your comments, but my videos are heavily policed in terms of words. I used a forbidden word apparently in the title of something, and apparently the new word that is forbidden is, and I think we're far enough in the video that I can say it, arrest. Someone was arrested, and I wasn't supposed to say arrested. Like, are we adults? What is this? If you can't say someone is arrested, how can you talk about the law? I find that absurd, just absurd. But apparently there are all these new rules. So I don't know. Hopefully tonight we'll be safe. We will try to. But yeah, how these could exist and I don't know. I am at a loss to answer your question, Chris. I don't think there is an answer. Okay, so Scotch's mom says, if Brian Walshe is convicted in this case, how will his federal charges be handled? They're already done, so it shouldn't be affected. They were not done at the time that Ana Walshe disappeared. So that's what you heard in that stipulation, but they are done now. So I think there won't be any effect other than it might trigger something in Massachusetts when he's sentenced because he already has a record. I don't know. I don't know whether that's the case or not. Okay, Kathy Lee, look up his business. We know it's con man, but he said he has a cyber business. Kathy Lou, it all related, I think, to this art and selling stuff. I don't know any more than that about what his business was while he was at home. Hopefully I can find out some, at least about the art as I go into that case. Is there any lessers than first degree? Den Ben, I believe they likely will end up charging the jury with lessers. We saw that happen in the Karen Reed case, so I imagine that will happen. Is there any thoughts on why the Commonwealth is unwilling to offer a plea? Pharmaco asks. Are we sure they did? Is it possible that he doesn't want that plea because what's it going to be but guilty, right? So maybe he thinks this is his best shot at getting out. Maybe the prosecution has offered a plea that includes that. Now, we know that they opposed his plea of guilty on the other two charges. So it could be the prosecution is saying, no, we need some justice here. We want him convicted on all three charges. That could be how it's happening. Chico Karen, why was Walshe concerned? I don't know. Concerned about HIV. Remember that search about the knife and the HIV, and would that be removed? I don't know. I very much would like to know that too. I think that would be potentially information that the defense brings up, but maybe not. I don't know why he did that. I too was struck by that. And Jindabom asking this search for, can you get charged with murder when you dispose of a body is the most damaging? Yeah. Murder too doesn't need premeditation, but he's been charged all the way with the full murder charge, but still can be life in prison max. All true. Linda, also wanting the art fraud. So y'all are interested in that. And part of it will depend. I'll just see, do we have a lot of interest in this case? Are people moving forward wanting to know more and more about the case? And we'll kind of follow that. But thank you very much for telling me what interests you. I appreciate that. And Kathy Lou is saying that Gavin searched dark web or had some other browser due to his cyber job. That could be. I don't know about that. Interesting. TMTB says I said that Massachusetts does. Oh, that's right. That's right. We did say that. Massachusetts doesn't, you're correct. Doesn't allow him to plead guilty on first degree. So they could present something to the judge, I suppose, with lesser amount, but he can't just voluntarily plead. You're correct. Wow. Thank you for remembering what I had clearly forgotten. So much appreciated. Let's see if there's anybody else over here. I think I've covered everybody. All right. Well, thank you for joining me tonight, everybody. This case is changing every single day. We will keep uncovering it piece by piece. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you back tomorrow for the next chapter in this absolutely wild case.